Arthur Gensler, chairman of the Gensler architecture firm in San Francisco, is here in Chicago to talk about completing a super tall trio. And your firm really kind of splashed in the world skyscraper headlines with the Shanghai Center design. Has that kind of put you on the map in terms of super high rises?
Well, it's given us a chance to be invited to the competitions around the world. And we're doing well in that competitive world. It's not the only thing we're interested in doing by a long shot. We love the opportunity to do in doing airports and office buildings and regular office buildings and planning environments and retail centers. So we have a variety. One of the things that came out of that was that we were able to demonstrate to the clients of the world that we can do a large building. We really backed into the world in the sense that we were the largest interior architecture firm. People kept saying, well, you can do the interiors, why don't you do the building? So we started, and they asked us to do the building that was really compatible with the way interiors work and new companies work. And so we have a real feel for that. And we have a feel for retail and hospitality as well. We have a very large hospitality practice of hotels around the world. We have a large practice in the retail world. So a building like the Shanghai Tower has those components as a part of the project. So we're not just putting space and saying retail or putting space and saying hotel. We really understand how that building will be used and can be used.
Was there a certain amount of thought that went into going after a project of this size, since this is kind of a new thing for your firm?
Well, my partner, Jun Shaw, who runs our Shanghai office, came out of Denver, came out of China, in Shanghai originally where he grew up, knew the people that were putting the competition together, and we were asked to compete. We have the largest, I believe, architectural firm in Shanghai, an international architecture firm, about 120 people. So we understand how the market. June understands the culture, and we think culture is a really important part of this project. And so we got invited to compete, and we made the first round, and we made the second. We got down to 2, and we were fortunate. I think we had and have the best design. I think it's an appropriate design. It's a realistic design. It can be built, and it is going to be built.
This, just the idea of this tower goes back a ways, because we remember seeing, talking about the Shanghai World Financial Center and all of what's going on in that part of Shanghai and Pudong. Remember seeing concept drawings or concept models for Shanghai future development in the late 90s, early 2000s that showed a mysterious third building in that complex, which this is now. So how long have you been involved with this? How far back does it go?
Well, we've been involved probably 7 or 8 years, and you're correct that Shanghai and Pudong always planned this zone to have 3 super tall buildings. That was part of their plan, and a trio of buildings. And we were involved back when they started interviewing firms and looking at concepts and schemes back in the early 2000s. The city got into some trouble with the mayor and other situations, and the competition was put on hold. And then when they got a new mayor and new city government, they reinstituted the competition. And so this is a city building being built by the city, and will be owned by the city, to complete this building. And I think Shanghai is a community that is very proud of itself and has a right to be. Wanted to have a signature landmark tower building in China and in Shanghai that would be a part of the future of that city, to establish it firmly as the leading city in China. They want to be the business center, the major center, not the government center, but the business center. And so that's was their plan and their goal. And so they had a very rigorous competition, and we were pleased to be the selected firm.
This is really such a unique place, because it's the only place in the world where you're going to be able to stand in one place and look around you on 3 sides and see 3 just incredibly tall buildings. And I've talked to, over the years, the people behind both of the other buildings. So this is completing a super tall trio. And I've heard the past, present, and future angle, in that the Jin Mao is the past, Shanghai is your building is the future. And I've also talked to, just last year, the people from Cohn Pedersen Fox, Gene Cohn and Bill Pedersen, who have some very definite ideas as to how another building should interface with theirs. What were your feelings going in about the existing conditions?
Well, it's an interesting question because we do have feelings about it. And one of the really strong feelings that I had and we had as a firm when we looked at the site and really walked around and really examined it is that the other two buildings are great buildings, and I don't want anybody to think I don't think they're great buildings. But they're not open and friendly buildings. They're large stone walls and very narrow entrances and not an open come into the city. And this building was taking the total opposite. It's a very transparent building, very open, very welcoming. It's a city building for the people of Shanghai and the people of China. It's welcoming. We want you to come in. We want you to participate. We want you to interact. We don't want, like so many buildings, especially tall buildings, the heavy security where you can't go in unless you've got a pass and a this and a that. We've got lots of space for people to come into the building and to interact with it. And so that was a whole different philosophy. The second one is that we're only covering one half of the site with a building. The other half of the site is open space. And of that, 33% of the total site is green. So it's a park, and this building sits in a park and really strives to sit in a park and be open, again, to the people of Shanghai. So it's a little different. It isn't like so many buildings and tall buildings that are on a street and, they're cambered in with sidewalks all the way around. That isn't what this building's about. It's a very friendly, come to us building.
So it is a place where people can just go in.
And be
because
open.
Because it looks inviting.
We have a 500,000 square foot retail complex and conference centers and meeting facilities and health clubs and all sorts of things for people. And the buildings are connected on the B level, B2 level, to Jinmao and the World Financial Center and to the subway. We'll be the first tying it into the subway so that all the people can flow under the streets, which are incredibly wide and heavily traffic laden, and get from the various public transportation. So it really becomes the hub piece in the transportation-friendly building.
One of the things I was interested to see in some of the renderings here are the sky gardens, and there's sky gardens and winter gardens in a lot of buildings now that developers wouldn't have dreamed about spending square footage on that years ago.
Well, the building design is really an incredibly intuitive design. I give again, Jun Shaw and the team incredible credit. The codes in Shanghai require that we have area of refuge floors every 14 floors. And so what we've ended up with is a series of zones that go all the way up through the building, 9 zones, of which there's a 2-level area of refuge and mechanical floor. There's 12 occupiable floors and then 2 of these mechanical service area refuge floors. And those are the floors that go to the outer skin. We have a double skin building, and they go to the outer skin. And that gave us this sky lobby concept, amenities concept, so that every 12 floors will have that. The idea that a person on the 50th or 60th or 70th or 100th floor has to go all the way down to the ground to get a Starbucks. We'll have the shops, the amenities that those people in those floors need. It may be if it's a special one company takes all 12 floors, that they'll have their lobby, their conference center. It'll depend how the actual tenant use comes out, and we're not planning those. We're planning them for flexibility. One of the beautiful things about it is that it creates these tapered atriums that go up 12 stories. And because every 12 floors, the cylinders, the actual office space is a series of stacked cylinders that shrink as they go up. And the outside is a skin that is a triangle that rotates, and I'll talk about that in a second, but it rotates because it helps shed the wind and reduces the structural dramatically on the building, but creates these moving atriums where we can plant trees that actually go into the floor of these mechanical and area of refuge floors, so we don't have to have big boxes, but the trees will be level with the floor level of the building, and so people can actually get to the windows and look out from that point. Where in the upper floors, they're looking through a double skin, which gives us enormous energy efficiencies and enormous benefits to the users from a whole sustainability point of view. I want to come back and talk momentarily about the structure because I think it's so unique. What we've been able to do by wind tunnel tests is to reduce the wind load on the building by 32%. And that's a dramatic reduction of wind load, and it allowed us to save over $50 million in structural costs because of reduced loads from what a normal code would require you to do. And then there's this twisted zipper that goes around the building that deflects and breaks up the wind that also helps that. So we ended up building a 7-meter tall model to be tested in the wind tunnel rather than small models to verify and prove all of these approaches that we've taken. Building where has these unique zones to them and it brings a sense of scale and humanity to a very, very large building, which is over 3 million feet in the tower and 1.5 million feet in the basement and others. And the retail expansion on the bustle and the ground floor level, we're over 5 million square feet of gross leasable area.
Let's talk about the form of the building, and one question I always like to ask is, or talk about, is how the vision of height translates to other cultures. You certainly have that in the Jinmao building, and in Shanghai World Financial Center, and in your building I've heard it called the Dragon.
Well, it was called
right?
the Dragon. The client wasn't thrilled with that as a symbolism, although the Punho River, which winds as sort of a dragon shape, and we originally started thinking of it as a twisted dragon. But it has really turned into more of a very soft, amorphous shape that is really designed to do a lot of things, not just to be a shape because we like shapes. It was really studied. We studied the percentage of twist. It twists 120 degrees. We studied the taper of the tapers very carefully. And then the crown, instead of a bunch of stuff up there, kind of completes it. But it also does some amazing things in the crown. We have vertical wind turbines that are going to be doing the night lighting for the building. We have a tempered damper up there. We have water collection for our gray water system, which we'll be using throughout the building. So it completes the building in a very soft and consistent way with the shape of the building, rather than either just whacking it off or putting a bunch of stuff up there because you don't know how to finish a building off.
Is there a particular statement that makes about the future of China, this being a past, present, future context?
I think so. I think it's sort of going forward in a way. I think twisting is saying we're not finished, we're not complete, we've got places to go. And so I think that the openness and the sensitivity and the completeness of the design and the uniqueness of the design will really separate it from all other buildings. But it's complementary in the relationships to the Kohn-Pedersen-Fox building, the SOM building, and we think will make a great tri-building complex that'll be unique in the world.
I ask you about the wind tunnel testing because you're dealing not only with your own building but the interaction with the other two. Were there interesting things that came out?
Well, I think there were, yes. I mean, the model is literally has the Jinmao and the World Financial Center in this model, in the wind tunnel. So I think the Jinmao was like 5 meters tall and the World Financial was like 6 meters, and ours was 7.5 meters tall. And we found that there was an interaction between the buildings, and we believe that the shape of our building has cut down some of the eddies and other things. One of the things that this V zipper that comes around and will be actually wonderful because it'll be lit at night on an LED lighting system, but it displaces the wind, and so it isn't this buffering winds that you get up there. We'll be slipping it off and creating eddies that I think will calm the winds against the other buildings.
I've often wondered what life is going to be like between those 3 buildings at the bottom and what somebody walking through there would feel. Do you have any feel for that?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting because tall buildings aren't normally in a park. And I think tall buildings in today's world, like the World Trade Center, the building they're building in New York now, are not friendly buildings. And we really pushed hard, and we had a very receptive client. We've had a very wonderful relationship with this client who has been highly supportive of the design and the concepts and bought into the ideas that we had early on. But one of the things that they did, you're absolutely right, this has got to be for the people of Shanghai. There was a lot of, there are a couple things. Two things that came out. One, why would you build a building like this now? You know, we started the construction, construction was just after the earthquake, the bad earthquake that we had in China. And people saying, you know, why aren't you sending money to the poor people? And we believe that, and Shanghai believes this is a great investment. It'll be completed in 2014. And we believe that the market will be quite strong in 2014. There's not much happening now, as we all know, so the pent-up demand, and will be the place to be, will be there. And so it'll be a very financially successful project for the city of Shanghai, not a loser. And the second part of that is that people will want something, a symbol of pride. And I think the people of Shanghai, for example, one of the things that we're working very hard is to get the excavation has been started underneath the tower. They've built a round slurry wall, and they're digging down, and they'll be up. And that will be up to grade by the start of the Shanghai, I'm going to forget now, the World Trade Center, the trade show. There's a expo, a Shanghai Expo, which is coming in 2010. And so we'll be up to ground demonstrating that China is moving forward, and it's a part of that demonstration for the World Expo that we wanted to get in the ground and get it up to grade so that people can actually physically see this is happening. This is a part of Shanghai and China moving forward.
Some of the design features on here, we've spoken about some of them, the sky gardens and the rainwater system are very interesting, and one of the ones that caught my attention is the bioclimatic design and the intelligent skin. Intelligent skin, what is that?
Well, intelligent skin is interesting. Not only did we create a double skin, we modeled the building from sun and then we have frit on that outside outside of the building, so that, for example, on the north there is no frit, but on the south there is fairly dense frit, and on the east and west there's less frit. And it's all been developed scientifically to control the sun coming into the building, so that we are really trying at every step of the way to do things. The use of gray water throughout the building, the use of just fresh water for drinking and things, but with gray water and all the toilets and irrigation and other things. The other things that are really special, be able to have major trees in these atriums will be just an incredible air filtering kind of concept and clean air. The whole building has been, as somebody said, everything has two purposes. It's got to be, important technology, but it's also got to be beautiful. It's got to, work for the tenant, but it's got to be flexible. It's got to have two different things. So we've really tried to build into the building things in terms of sustainability. We have ice storage in the lower levels. We have geothermal for use of geothermal. So we're doing a lot of the things, advanced control systems for everything, and metering everything so that we'll really know how the building's performing and operating.
Explain the ice storage, because I think I know what you mean by that, but explain that
well,
part.
What you do is you basically, at low power rates in the evenings, create ice, and then you blow, in effect, blow the air across it for the cooling for during the day, so that it's not using Freon and other things, but you're doing your chilling for the air conditioning through ice, through using ice as the coolant.
We were in the John Hancock Center yesterday, and that building is 40-plus years old, and I remember it being built, and it's amazing to think of it as a 40-year-old building. When your building gets to be that way, this is really, I'm thinking, a very important building for the early 21st century. 40 or 50 years down the line, how do you think people are going to look back on this one?
Well, obviously, I'd like to think of them as one of the buildings like the Chrysler Building or the Empire State Building, which has, to me, a really lasting quality of an elegant, simple, but a straightforward design solution. One of the things that we've tried to avoid is any gimmicks or geometry. We have a very logical structural system. We have a very concrete steel core. We have these super columns that hold the building very steady and very safe. It's a building that is not using gymnastics to be tricky. It's using intelligent, these step cylinders that are very logical and get to the size where when you get up to the hotel levels and the conference and observation levels, the floors are smaller, which you need, and you need larger floors down below. And we have some intermediate sized floors based for the office in the middle. But I think the building's going to hold up really, really well. I'm worried about some of these buildings that are fighting gymnastics and torturing the way that they construct them just because somebody liked it because it looked good. This hopefully is a building that is logical and will remain logical for the future.
I should have asked you this before, but the term frit, explain that.
Frit is a ceramic dot pattern on the glass that has various density, can be put on in any density so that it can be dots farther apart, dots very close together. There can be dots of a variety of shapes that are controlling the amount of light that's passing through. And so although you design it so that your vision is clear, basically, it's like looking a little bit through a screen, and it controls the amount of light, direct sunlight that can come through. And so we put that, and it blends on the glass. So in the vision portion of the glass, because we have glass from floor to ceiling, in the vision portion, it's quite open, but in the non-vision, up above your eye level and below your waist level, it'll be more dense in those areas where we need density, so that we can create individual patterns, again, depending on the solar orientation of the building.
It is 2009 as we speak, 2009. 2010 is almost here. And you say the building will be finished in 2014 as things currently stand. Describe what we're going to see over the next 4 or 5 years.
Well, you're going to see a very unique building being built because, and it was interesting, the discussion this morning of zoning the building and being able to open sections at a time, and we may be able to do that because we have we have mechanical zones at every 14, and these area refuge floors every 14 floors. So I think we can do some of that. We can open the retail and other things. I think the building it's going to be a gigantic construction project, and a lot of workmen, a lot of new technologies, and I'm really excited to see the Chinese, the team that we've got, and I should mention that our team is Thornton Tomasetti is our structural engineer, and Cosentini is our electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and IT consultants, and Tanji University, LDI Local Design Institute, will be our partner in putting the documents together. They're terrific people, and they'll be monitoring, and they become the architect of record. But it's going to be, every day is going to surprise people, and I think the double wall and the twist that's going to happen will be interesting, and people will start to see the building, and you can, instead of just a building in a uniform skin, 100 stories, you're going to see these area refuge floors, you're going to see the things that start to happen. So the building will come alive, and there's quite an exciting base to the building, which is the retail, which has more of a flamboyant, but a come and visit me kind of a feel to it. So, and then we have like 1,800 cars below grade and all sorts of things happening. So it's a building that's going to They haven't even begun to dig the 5-story basement for the parking, and that will be an enormous excavation project.
Did I hear you say that with portions of this building sectioned off that you're going to try and have occupancy while this is still?
My guess is that we will. I mean, it's not going to take 2014 to get this thing. You're going to take that to get it all the way finished and buttoned up at the top. But we'd like to think that we could get portions of the building open ahead of time. And, once we get the parking garage in and planning around it, we can, start getting people there.
You're looking at this twisting kind of glass-looking tube, soft tube that's going to slowly grow and slowly light from the bottom as this thing
Well,
gets
it's going to be,
going.
let me say, it's going to be probably the biggest curtain wall job anybody did in the world. We've been talking about that this morning. Especially we have an outer skin and an inner skin. The advantage that we have is because it's a round rather than rectangle, the ratio of a rectangle to a round is such that we only have maybe a third more glass than you would have in the same floor area if it was rectangular or square, required for even the double wall that we have.
Arthur Gensler, your firm has just really kind of splashed on the scene with a spectacular building, and congratulations on winning it. And we're going to look forward to seeing this grow over the next 4, 5, 6 years.
Well, thank you. I think we have the largest architectural firm in the world right now, and I think we're going to hopefully not splash on the world, but we're going to create environments that are really great for people and communities, and something that everybody can take great pride in. So thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you.
And thanks for coming to Chicago.